Velociraptors surround a human child. Then T-Rex does the unthinkable. How will this story unfold? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The dense jungle buzzed with the sounds of life, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and wild vegetation. Birds with vibrant plumage darted through the canopy, their calls mingling with the distant roar of rushing water. But beneath the vibrant life of the prehistoric forest, a quiet tension lingered, an unspoken rule of survival that every creature, big or small, understood instinctively. In the heart of the jungle, a young boy named Leo crouched behind a massive tree trunk, his breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. His clothes were tattered, his face smeared with dirt, and his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. He was lost, separated from his family during a research expedition. What had started as a thrilling adventure into a land untouched by time had turned into a desperate fight for survival. Leo clutched a stick in his hands, though he knew it was a feeble weapon against the dangers that lurked in the shadows. He glanced around, his heart pounding as he scanned the dense foliage for any sign of movement. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, the usual chorus of sounds falling eerily silent. And then he heard it, a low, guttural growl that sent a chill down his spine. Slowly, he turned his head, his gaze locking onto a pair of piercing yellow eyes staring at him from the underbrush. A velociraptor stepped into the clearing, its sleek body rippling with muscle, its claws glinting like daggers in the dappled sunlight. It was followed by another, and another. Leo froze, his mind racing. He had read about velociraptors in his father's research notes, intelligent, cunning predators that hunted in packs. Running was pointless. They were faster, stronger, and far more coordinated than he could ever hope to be. But staying still felt equally hopeless. The lead raptor let out a chilling screech, its head tilting as it studied him. The others began to fan out, encircling him with precision that spoke of their deadly intelligence. Leo tightened his grip on the stick, though he knew it wouldn't make a difference. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. The raptors didn't seem to care. One of them lunged forward, snapping its jaws inches from his face before retreating, testing his reaction. Leo scrambled backward, his back pressing against the rough bark of the tree. He felt the ground tremble slightly beneath him, but his focus remained on the raptors. Another one hissed, its claws scraping the dirt as it crept closer. And then it happened. A thunderous roar shattered the tense silence, shaking the very ground beneath them. The raptors froze, their heads snapping toward the source of the sound. Leo's heart leapt as a massive figure emerged from the shadows, the sunlight catching on its massive, scaly frame. It was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a creature of legend and terror, towering above the jungle floor with an aura of raw power. The T-Rex let out another deafening roar, its teeth bared in a display of dominance. The raptors hesitated, their predatory confidence faltering in the presence of such a formidable foe. Leo pressed himself against the tree, his mind racing. Was this an ally or a new danger? The lead raptor screeched, snapping its jaws in defiance, but the T-Rex stomped forward, its massive footfall sending tremors through the ground. The raptors exchanged nervous glances before retreating, their sleek bodies disappearing into the underbrush as quickly as they had appeared. For a moment, the jungle was silent again, save for the heavy breathing of the T-Rex. Leo remained frozen, his eyes locked on the towering creature before him. He expected it to turn on him, to see him as nothing more than an easy snack. But to his astonishment, the T-Rex simply stood there, its massive head tilted as it studied him. "Thank you," Leo whispered, though he doubted the creature understood him. He lowered the stick, his trembling hands betraying his lingering fear. The T-Rex huffed, a sound that almost seemed like acknowledgement, before lowering its head slightly. Leo's mind raced. Could this apex predator have saved him intentionally? It seemed impossible, yet here he was, alive and unscathed. Cautiously, he took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The T-Rex didn't move, its golden eyes watching him with a mix of curiosity and something that almost resembled understanding. Gathering his courage, Leo reached out a hand, though he knew it was a foolish gesture. The T-Rex snorted, its hot breath ruffling his hair, but it didn't pull away. Emboldened, Leo let his hand rest against the rough, scaly surface of its snout. The creature's skin was warm, its texture a mix of toughness and surprising softness. "You're not so scary up close," Leo said softly, a small smile breaking through his fear. The T-Rex let out a low rumble, a sound that resonated in his chest. It wasn't a roar of aggression but something gentler, almost like a purr. For the first time since he had been separated from his family, Leo felt a glimmer of hope. This ancient creature, a symbol of nature's raw power, had chosen to protect him. He didn't know why, but he was determined to survive, and maybe, just maybe, this unlikely ally would help him. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting the jungle in shades of orange and gold, Leo realized he couldn't stay in one place. The Velociraptors might return, or worse, and he needed to find food, water, and shelter. He looked up at the T-Rex, who was now resting its massive head against a fallen log. "Do you mind if I stick with you?" he asked, half joking. "You're probably my best chance out here." The T-Rex let out another huff, its golden eyes blinking slowly. It wasn't a no, and that was enough for Leo. He gathered his courage and began walking, glancing back to see if the creature would follow. To his amazement, it did, its massive frame moving with surprising grace through the dense jungle. As night fell, Leo found a small clearing where he could rest. He started gathering leaves and sticks to make a makeshift bed, glancing nervously at the shadows that seemed to stretch endlessly around him. The T-Rex stood guard at the edge of the clearing, its presence both reassuring and surreal. Leo settled down, exhaustion finally catching up to him. "Thank you," he murmured to the T-Rex, who let out a soft rumble in response. As he closed his eyes, he couldn't help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. For now, he was safe, and that was more than he could have hoped for. The jungle was alive with the sounds of the night. Crickets chirped, distant roars echoed through the trees, and the occasional flutter of wings broke the stillness. But in the small clearing where Leo had settled, a peaceful silence reigned. The towering T-Rex stood at the edge of the clearing, its massive body silhouetted against the faint moonlight filtering through the canopy. It kept a watchful eye on its surroundings, every so often sniffing the air for potential threats. Leo slept fitfully, tossing and turning on his makeshift bed of leaves and sticks. His dreams were a mix of fear and wonder, memories of the raptors that had surrounded him and the awe-inspiring moment the T-Rex had emerged to save him. When he finally woke, the first light of dawn was breaking through the trees, casting a soft golden glow over the jungle. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes and taking in his surroundings. For a brief moment, he wondered if the events of the previous day had been a dream, but as his gaze fell on the massive form of the T-Rex, he knew it was all real. The creature was resting but still alert, its head low to the ground as it watched him. "Good morning," Leo said, his voice cracking from thirst. He realized with a pang that he hadn't had anything to drink since he got lost. His stomach growled, reminding him that food was another pressing concern. He glanced at the T-Rex, wondering how he was going to survive in this prehistoric wilderness. The T-Rex let out a low rumble, its golden eyes meeting his. It stood slowly, shaking off the dew that had settled on its scales, and took a step toward him. Leo froze, unsure of what the creature wanted. But instead of attacking, it turned and began walking away, its massive tail swishing through the underbrush. "Wait!" Leo called, scrambling to his feet. "Where are you going?" The T-Rex paused, looking back at him with what almost seemed like impatience. Leo hesitated for a moment before deciding to follow. He had no idea where the creature was leading him, but staying behind wasn't an option. He grabbed his stick, his only semblance of protection, and trailed after the T-Rex. The jungle was dense and alive with movement. Leo stumbled over roots and ducked under low-hanging branches, doing his best to keep up with the massive creature. Despite its size, The T-Rex moved with surprising agility, navigating the terrain with ease. Leo marveled at its strength and grace, wondering how such a powerful predator had chosen to help him instead of hunting him. After what felt like hours, the T-Rex stopped near a small stream that sparkled in the morning light. Leo let out a sigh of relief, his parched throat aching for water. He dropped to his knees at the edge of the stream, cupping his hands and drinking deeply. The cool water was a balm to his dry throat, and he felt a surge of gratitude toward the T-Rex for leading him here. "Thank you," he said, looking up at the creature. The T-Rex lowered its massive head, drinking from the stream with a loud slurp. It seemed at ease, its powerful body relaxed as it quenched its thirst. As Leo drank his fill, he noticed movement in the corner of his eye. A small herd of herbivorous dinosaurs, hadrosauruses, was grazing nearby, their heads dipping into the water. They were peaceful creatures, their large eyes watching Leo and the T-Rex warily. Leo marveled at the sight, feeling like he had stepped into a scene from a history book. The T-Rex, however, seemed uninterested in the hadrosauruses. It turned its attention back to Leo, huffing softly as if urging him to follow again. Leo stood, his legs aching from the trek but his resolve stronger than ever. "Okay, I'm coming," he said, trailing behind the massive predator. As they walked, Leo began to notice patterns in the T-Rex's behavior. It wasn't wandering aimlessly, it had a purpose. It paused frequently to sniff the air, its keen senses attuned to the environment in a way Leo could only dream of. He began to trust the creature, realizing that it was guiding him through the jungle with a level of intelligence he hadn't expected. Their journey led them to a rocky outcrop overlooking a vast valley. Leo gasped at the sight before him. Herds of dinosaurs roamed the open plains, their massive forms moving gracefully through the landscape. The valley was a kaleidoscope of life, a testament to the thriving ecosystem of this prehistoric world. Leo sat on the edge of the outcrop, his exhaustion momentarily forgotten as he took in the breathtaking view. The T-Rex stood beside him, its gaze fixed on the valley below. For a moment, Leo felt a profound connection to the creature, as if they were both simply marveling at the beauty of the world around them. But the peace was short-lived. A distant roar echoed through the valley, a sound that sent a shiver down Leo's spine. The T-Rex stiffened, its massive frame tense as it scanned the horizon. Leo followed its gaze, his heart sinking as he spotted a group of velociraptors emerging from the tree line below. The raptors were moving quickly, their sleek bodies darting through the tall grass. They were hunting, and their target was a small herd of juvenile dinosaurs grazing near the edge of the valley. Leo's breath caught as he realized the danger the young dinosaurs were in. He glanced at the T-Rex, wondering what it would do. To his astonishment, the T-Rex let out a thunderous roar, the sound reverberating through the valley like a clap of thunder. The raptors froze, their heads snapping toward the source of the noise. For a moment, the valley was silent, the tension palpable, and then the T-Rex charged. Leo scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding as he watched the massive predator descend into the valley. The ground shook with each step, the T-Rex's roar echoing through the jungle. The raptors scattered, their predatory confidence shattered by the arrival of the apex predator. The T-Rex positioned itself between the raptors and the juvenile dinosaurs, its massive frame a shield against the smaller predators. It roared again, baring its teeth in a display of dominance. The raptors hesitated, their instincts telling them to flee but their hunger urging them to fight. Leo watched in awe as the standoff unfolded. The T-Rex was a force of nature, its every move calculated and commanding. It lunged at the raptors, snapping its jaws and swiping with its powerful tail. The raptors finally retreated, their screeches fading as they disappeared into the jungle. The juvenile dinosaurs, now safe, huddled together, their large eyes filled with a mix of fear and gratitude. The T-Rex turned back toward them, its body relaxing as the threat vanished. It let out a low rumble, almost like a purr, as if reassuring the young creatures that they were safe. Leo felt a surge of admiration for the T-Rex. It wasn't just a mindless predator. It was a protector, a guardian of the balance in this wild world. He realized that he had witnessed something extraordinary, a glimpse into the complex dynamics of life in the prehistoric jungle. As the T-Rex began to climb back up toward the outcrop, Leo stepped forward to meet it. "You're amazing," he said softly, his voice filled with awe. The T-Rex huffed in response, its golden eyes meeting his with a calm intensity. Leo knew their journey was far from over, but in that moment, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. With the T-Rex by his side, he believed they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they were an unlikely pair, united by survival and a bond that transcended the boundaries of time and species. The events in the valley replayed in Leo's mind as the T-Rex led him back toward the jungle. He couldn't help but feel a deep respect for the creature, which had demonstrated not just strength but a surprising sense of purpose. It wasn't just about survival, it was about protecting the balance of its world. As they walked, Leo's stomach growled loudly, reminding him that he hadn't eaten since getting lost. The water from the stream had helped keep him going, but he needed food if he was going to last much longer. He glanced at the T-Rex, wondering how he was going to explain his need for something to eat. "I don't suppose you could help me find food, could you?" he asked, half joking. The T-Rex paused, turning its massive head to look at him. For a moment, Leo thought he was imagining the way the creature seemed to understand him. Then, without warning, it began moving again, this time with a sense of urgency. Leo hurried to keep up, his curiosity piqued. The T-Rex's powerful strides took them deeper into the jungle, the dense foliage casting shadows that danced in the golden light of the setting sun. Leo struggled to keep up, his smaller frame no match for the sheer size and speed of the creature. After what felt like an eternity, the T-Rex stopped near a cluster of trees, its massive head lowering to sniff the ground. Leo approached cautiously, unsure of what it had found. As he got closer, he noticed a bush laden with bright red berries. His stomach growled again, but he hesitated, unsure if the berries were safe to eat. The T-Rex let out a low rumble, nudging the bush gently with its snout. Leo tilted his head, wondering if the creature was encouraging him to take the berries. "Are you sure they're safe?" he asked, as if the T-Rex could answer. He plucked a berry and examined it closely before taking a small, tentative bite. To his relief, the berry was sweet and juicy, its flavor a welcome change from the bland, survival mode mindset he had been in. He quickly gathered more, eating enough to quell his hunger while saving some for later. "Thanks," he said, glancing up at the T-Rex. "You're better at this survival thing than I am." The T-Rex huffed, its breath ruffling Leo's hair, before turning its attention back to the jungle. It seemed restless, its golden eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for something. Leo followed its gaze, wondering what was on the creature's mind. As night began to fall, the jungle came alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures. The T-Rex found a spot to rest, lying down near a large rock that offered some protection. Leo sat beside it, feeling strangely safe despite the immense size of his companion. The bond between them had grown stronger with each passing moment, an unspoken understanding that transcended words. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Leo found himself opening up to the T-Rex, as if it were a trusted friend. "I don't know if I'll ever find my family," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "But being with you, it makes me feel like I have a chance." The T-Rex let out a soft rumble, its eyes half closed as it listened. Leo smiled, comforted by the creature's presence. He lay down on the soft grass, his exhaustion catching up with him once again. The T-Rex remained vigilant, its gaze scanning the darkness for any signs of danger. The following morning, Leo woke to the sound of birds chirping and the gentle rustle of leaves. The T-Rex was already awake, its massive frame silhouetted against the rising sun. Leo stretched, feeling a sense of renewed determination. "Let's keep going," he said, standing and brushing off his clothes. Their journey continued, the jungle revealing more of its secrets with each step. Leo marveled at the diversity of life around him. Colorful birds, strange insects, and the occasional dinosaur crossing their path. The The T-Rex seemed to command respect wherever it went, its mere presence enough to deter potential threats. As they trekked through a particularly dense part of the jungle, Leo heard a faint sound in the distance. It was rhythmic and mechanical, unlike anything he had heard in the wild. His heart raced as he realized what it was: helicopter blades cutting through the air. "My family!" he exclaimed, breaking into a run. The T-Rex followed, its powerful strides easily keeping pace. Leo's mind raced with the possibility that his parents had sent a search party to find him. He pushed through the underbrush, his heart pounding with hope. As they emerged into a clearing, Leo's excitement turned to confusion. Instead of a search party, he saw a group of people dressed in camouflage, their movements calculated and precise. They were setting up equipment, cages, traps, and tranquilizer guns. Leo's stomach dropped as he realized what was happening. Poachers. The men were talking in hushed tones, their eyes scanning the jungle for signs of movement. Leo froze, unsure of what to do. The T-Rex stood behind him, its massive frame hidden by the trees. He turned to the creature, his mind racing. "We have to stop them," he whispered. "They're going to hurt the dinosaurs." The T-Rex let out a low growl, its muscles tensing as it observed the intruders. Leo knew it would be dangerous, but he couldn't just stand by and let the poachers destroy the jungle's fragile ecosystem. He needed a plan, and he needed the T-Rex's help. Using the dense foliage as cover, Leo crept closer to the poachers, his heart pounding in his chest. He counted at least 6 of them, all armed and focused on setting up their traps. He spotted a cage containing a juvenile dinosaur, its small frame trembling with fear. Anger surged through him as he realized the poachers had already started capturing animals. He turned to the T-Rex, motioning for it to stay hidden. "Wait for my signal," he whispered, though he wasn't sure how much the creature understood. The T-Rex remained still, its golden eyes locked on the scene before them. Leo picked up a rock and hurled it into the bushes on the opposite side of the clearing. The sudden noise startled the poachers, who turned their attention toward the sound. "What was that?" one of them muttered, raising his tranquilizer gun. Taking advantage of the distraction, Leo darted toward the cage, his movements quick and silent. He fumbled with the lock, his hands shaking as he worked to free the captive dinosaur. The juvenile let out a soft whimper, its large eyes filled with fear. "Shh, it's okay," Leo whispered, finally managing to open the cage. The dinosaur hesitated for a moment before bolting into the jungle, disappearing into the safety of the trees. Leo felt a surge of relief, but his victory was short-lived. "Hey, over there," one of the poachers shouted, spotting him. Leo's heart sank as the men raised their weapons, their expressions filled with anger. He turned to run, but he knew he wouldn't get far. Before the poachers could take another step, a deafening roar split the air. The T-Rex burst into the clearing, its massive frame towering over the men. The ground shook with each step, the sheer power of the creature sending waves of fear through the poachers. The men scrambled to defend themselves, their tranquilizer darts bouncing harmlessly off the T-Rex's thick hide. It roared again, snapping its massive jaws and swiping its tail with devastating force. The poachers scattered, their carefully laid plans falling apart in an instant. Leo watched in awe as the T-Rex defended its territory, its every move a display of raw power and precision. The poachers, realizing they were outmatched, abandoned their equipment and fled into the jungle. The T-Rex let out a final roar, a warning to anyone who might dare to return. As the clearing fell silent once more, Leo stepped forward, his heart pounding. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. The T-Rex turned to him, its golden eyes softening. In that moment, Leo felt an unbreakable bond between them, a connection forged in trust and survival. The clearing fell silent, the air thick with the aftermath of the chaos. The poachers had fled, leaving behind their cages, traps, and scattered supplies. Leo stood in awe of the T-Rex, his heart pounding from the adrenaline of the encounter. The massive predator seemed calm now, its golden eyes scanning the area to ensure the threat was gone. "You're incredible," Leo said, his voice barely above a whisper. The T-Rex huffed softly, lowering its head slightly as if acknowledging his words. Leo approached cautiously, placing a hand on its rough, scaly hide. "Thank you for saving me again." The juvenile dinosaur Leo had freed peeked out from the edge of the jungle, its small frame trembling with uncertainty. It chirped softly, its large eyes fixed on the T-Rex. To Leo's astonishment, the T-Rex let out a low, rumbling sound, a reassuring noise that seemed to calm the smaller creature. The juvenile stepped closer, finding safety in the presence of its towering guardian. Leo's gaze shifted to the abandoned equipment left by the poachers. The cages were crude and cruel, their sharp edges a stark reminder of the danger these men had posed to the jungle's inhabitants. Among the items scattered across the clearing, Leo spotted a map pinned to a makeshift table. He hurried over, his curiosity piqued. The map was detailed, showing the layout of the jungle with markings indicating areas of interest, likely places where the poachers had set traps or spotted valuable prey. But what caught Leo's attention was a circle drawn near the edge of the map, labeled Extraction Point. "They must have a way out," Leo muttered, tracing the route with his finger. "This could lead me back to my family." He glanced at the T-Rex, who was watching him intently. "I think I know where we need to go," he said, holding up the map. The T-Rex huffed in response, its gaze steady. Leo smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Let's get out of here." The journey to the extraction point was fraught with challenges. The jungle grew denser, the terrain more treacherous with each passing mile. Leo stumbled over roots and rocks, his small frame no match for the towering obstacles that seemed to appear at every turn. But the T-Rex moved with ease, its powerful legs navigating the terrain effortlessly. As they traveled, the bond between them deepened. The T-Rex seemed to sense Leo's needs, slowing its pace when he grew tired and stopping to sniff out water sources when his canteen ran dry. It was a protector in every sense of the word, its actions driven by an unspoken understanding that left Leo in awe. At one point, they came across a shallow ravine that cut through their path. The drop wasn't steep, but the climb back up the other side would be difficult. Leo hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. The T-Rex, however, had no such hesitation. It crouched low, nudging Leo gently with its snout. "You want me to climb on?" Leo asked, his voice tinged with both excitement and disbelief. The T-Rex huffed again, lowering itself further. Leo took a deep breath and climbed onto its back, gripping the ridges of its scales for support. The T-Rex stood slowly, its massive frame rising to full height. From this vantage point, Leo could see the jungle stretching out before them, a sea of green punctuated by the occasional clearing. The T-Rex began to move, its powerful legs carrying them down into the ravine and up the other side with ease. Leo held on tightly, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through him. When they reached the top, the T-Rex paused, allowing Leo to climb down. "That was amazing," he said, his voice filled with awe. The T-Rex let out a low rumble, almost as if it were pleased with itself. Leo laughed, the sound echoing through the jungle. For the first time since he had gotten lost, he felt truly hopeful. As they continued toward the extraction point, the jungle began to change. The trees grew taller, their branches forming a dense canopy that blocked out much of the sunlight. The air was cooler here, the sounds of wildlife quieter and more subdued. Leo felt a sense of unease, as if they were entering a place that even the jungle's inhabitants avoided. The T-Rex seemed to sense it too. It moved more cautiously, its massive frame tensed as it scanned the surroundings. Leo stayed close, his stick clutched tightly in his hand. He knew it was a poor weapon against the dangers of the jungle, but it was better than nothing. As they pressed on, a faint sound reached Leo's ears, a low, rhythmic drumming that seemed to come from deep within the jungle. He paused, straining to hear it more clearly. The T-Rex stopped as well, its head tilting slightly as it listened. "What is that?" Leo whispered, his voice barely audible. The drumming grew louder, accompanied by a faint, guttural growl. Leo's heart sank as he realized what it was. Raptors. The Velociraptors emerged from the shadows, their sleek bodies moving with predatory grace. There were at least 6 of them, their yellow eyes fixed on Leo and the T-Rex. The leader let out a screech, its claws scraping the ground as it advanced. Leo's mind raced. They were outnumbered, and while the T-Rex was formidable, the raptor's speed and coordination made them a deadly threat. He glanced at his companion, wondering if the T-Rex could handle them alone. The T-Rex let out a thunderous roar, its massive frame towering over the raptors. The smaller predators hesitated, their movements faltering as the sheer power of the T-Rex's presence overwhelmed them. But the leader screeched again, rallying its pack. The standoff was tense, the jungle holding its breath as predator faced predator. Leo tightened his grip on his stick, though he knew it was useless against creatures like these. He took a step back, his mind racing for a plan. Before he could act, the raptors lunged. The T-Rex met them head-on, its massive jaws snapping and its tail sweeping through the air with devastating force. The ground shook as the two sides clashed, the sounds of the battle echoing through the jungle. Leo watched in awe as the T-Rex fought with unmatched ferocity, its every move a testament to its strength and dominance. It swiped at the raptors with its powerful claws, sending them scattering. One of the raptors lunged at its leg, but the T-Rex shook it off with ease, sending the smaller predator tumbling into the underbrush. Despite the T-Rex's power, the raptors were relentless. They darted in and out, their claws and teeth flashing as they tried to exploit any weakness. Leo knew he couldn't just stand by. He grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at one of the raptors, striking it in the side. The creature hissed, momentarily distracted. "Over here!" Leo shouted, trying to draw the raptor's attention away from the T-Rex. It was a risky move, but he knew he had to help. The leader turned its gaze on him, its yellow eyes narrowing. It let out a screech, signaling for the pack to regroup. The T-Rex roared again, its massive frame looming over the raptors as it charged. The ground shook with each step, the sheer force of its presence sending the raptors scattering once more. This time, the predators didn't regroup. They retreated into the jungle, their screeches fading into the distance. Leo let out a shaky breath, his legs trembling from the adrenaline. The T-Rex stood tall, its golden eyes scanning the jungle to ensure the threat was gone. It let out a low rumble, its body relaxing as the danger passed. "You did it," Leo said, his voice filled with awe. He stepped closer, placing a hand on the T-Rex's side. "We did it." The T-Rex lowered its head, huffing softly as it nuzzled Leo's shoulder. The gesture was almost tender, a sign of the bond that had formed between them. Leo smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the creature that had saved his life time and time again. As the jungle fell silent once more, Leo turned his attention back to the map. The extraction point wasn't far now, and he knew they had to keep moving. He looked up at the T-Rex, his resolve stronger than ever. "Let's finish this," he said. The T-Rex huffed in agreement, its massive frame moving with purpose as they continued their journey. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The jungle seemed quieter now, as if the recent battle with the raptors had scared away the usual sounds of life. Leo walked beside the T-Rex, his body aching from the relentless journey but his heart filled with determination. The map in his hands was smudged from the humidity and his own sweaty palms, but he could still make out the route to the extraction point. They had to be close. The map indicated a clearing not far from their current location, marked with a small symbol that likely represented a landing zone. Leo's thoughts raced with the possibility of reuniting with his family, of finally escaping the dangers of the jungle. But he knew better than to let his guard down. This world was as unpredictable as it was beautiful. The T-Rex, ever alert, slowed its pace and sniffed the air. Leo stopped as well, watching the massive predator with a mixture of awe and curiosity. The creature's keen senses had saved them more than once, and he had learned to trust its instincts. "What is it?" Leo whispered, though he doubted the T-Rex could answer. The creature let out a low growl, its golden eyes narrowing as it scanned the dense foliage. Leo's heart sank as he realized what it meant. Something was out there. Before he could react, a distant roar echoed through the jungle, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. Leo's stomach dropped. Whatever was coming, it was big, and it was getting closer. The T-Rex let out a deafening roar, its body tensing as it prepared for the new threat. Leo gripped his stick tightly, though he knew it would be useless against whatever was approaching. He glanced around, searching for a place to hide, but the jungle offered little in the way of cover. The ground trembled as the footsteps grew louder, and soon the source of the noise came into view. Another T-Rex emerged from the trees, its massive frame nearly identical to Leo's companion. But this one was different. Its scales were darker, its eyes sharp and predatory. It let out a bone-rattling roar, its gaze fixed on the smaller T-Rex. Leo's heart raced as the two giants squared off, their roars echoing through the jungle like thunderclaps. He didn't understand why they were fighting, but the tension between them was palpable. The darker T-Rex lunged forward, its massive jaws snapping at Leo's companion. The T-Rex met the attack head-on, their massive bodies colliding with a force that shook the ground. Trees cracked and toppled under their weight as they grappled, their roars filling the air. Leo stumbled backward, his eyes wide with fear and helplessness. He wanted to help, but what could he do against creatures of this size? The fight was brutal, each T-Rex using its immense strength to try to overpower the other. The darker T-Rex seemed more aggressive, its movements sharp and relentless. But Leo's companion fought with precision, its powerful tail sweeping through the air and its jaws snapping with calculated force. Leo's heart pounded as he watched the battle unfold, every instinct telling him to run. But he couldn't leave. Not now. Not after everything they had been through. The darker T-Rex lunged again, its jaws closing around the neck of its opponent. Leo gasped, his chest tightening as he saw his companion struggle against the grip. For a moment, it seemed as though the darker T-Rex had the upper hand. But with a surge of strength, the lighter T-Rex broke free, letting out a roar of defiance. It struck back with a powerful swipe of its tail, sending the darker T-Rex staggering. The lighter T-Rex pressed its advantage, biting down on its opponent's shoulder and forcing it to retreat. The darker T-Rex let out a final roar before turning and disappearing into the jungle, its heavy footsteps fading into the distance. Leo let out a shaky breath, his legs trembling as the tension finally broke. He rushed to his companion's side, his eyes scanning its massive body for injuries. The T-Rex was bleeding from several gashes, its golden eyes dimmer than before. But it stood tall, its breathing steady. "You're hurt," Leo said, his voice filled with concern. He reached out to touch one of the wounds, but the T-Rex let out a soft rumble, almost as if to reassure him. "You saved us again." "Thank you." The T-Rex lowered its head, nudging Leo gently with its snout. Despite its injuries, it seemed determined to continue. Leo felt a surge of admiration and gratitude for the creature. He knew they couldn't stop now. They were so close to the extraction point. With renewed determination, Leo led the way, the T-Rex following close behind. The jungle began to thin, the dense foliage giving way to open spaces that hinted at their proximity to the clearing. Leo's heart raced as he spotted a break in the trees ahead, the sunlight streaming through like a beacon. When they finally reached the clearing, Leo's breath caught in his throat. A helicopter sat in the center, its blade still and its metal frame gleaming in the sunlight. Several people in uniforms were gathered around it, their expressions a mix of relief and urgency as they spotted Leo. "Leo," a voice called out, filled with emotion. He turned to see his parents running toward him, their faces etched with worry and joy. Tears filled Leo's eyes as he ran to them, his exhaustion forgotten in the overwhelming relief of being reunited. "Mom, Dad," he cried, throwing himself into their arms. They held him tightly, their voices a mix of laughter and sobs as they checked him for injuries. "We thought we'd lost you," his mother said, her voice trembling. "How did you survive out here?" Leo hesitated, glancing back at the edge of the clearing. The T-Rex stood there, its massive frame half hidden by the trees. The people near the helicopter froze, their eyes widening in fear as they spotted the creature. "It's okay," Leo said quickly, stepping forward. "It's not going to hurt us. It saved me." The T-Rex let out a low rumble, its golden eyes watching the scene with calm intensity. Leo approached it slowly, placing a hand on its snout. "Thank you," he whispered. "For everything." The creature huffed softly, its gaze steady. Leo's parents watched in awe, their fear giving way to amazement as they realized the bond between their son and the T-Rex. As the helicopter prepared for takeoff, Leo turned to the T-Rex one last time. "I'll never forget you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The T-Rex let out a final, rumbling roar, a sound that seemed to carry both farewell and hope. The helicopter lifted off, the jungle shrinking below them as they ascended into the sky. Leo pressed his face to the window, watching as the T-Rex disappeared into the trees. Tears streamed down his face, a mixture of gratitude and sadness filling his heart. Back at the research facility, Leo shared his incredible story, his words capturing the bond he had formed with the ancient creature. His parents listened in awe, their disbelief giving way to admiration for their son's bravery and resilience. The story of the boy and the T-Rex spread quickly, capturing the imagination of people around the world. Scientists debated the implications, while others marveled at the connection between human and dinosaur. But for Leo, it was a deeply personal experience, one that had changed him forever. Years later, Leo would return to the jungle, hoping to catch a glimpse of his old friend. He would stand at the edge of the clearing, his heart filled with hope as he called out into the dense foliage. And though the T-Rex never appeared, Leo knew it was out there, watching over its world with the same strength and courage it had shown him. The bond they had shared was unbreakable, a testament to the power of trust and friendship in the face of overwhelming odds. And as Leo grew older, he carried the lessons of the jungle with him, his heart forever touched by the T-Rex that had saved his life. The weeks that followed Leo's return were filled with endless questions, interviews, and speculation. His story quickly became the centerpiece of international headlines. Boy befriends T-Rex, prehistoric bond in modern times, and the miracle in the jungle. Everyone wanted to hear his first-hand account of survival, the role of the T-Rex, and the bond he had formed with the creature. For Leo, reliving the experience was bittersweet. While he felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude for having survived, there was a part of him that missed the simplicity of the jungle, the raw, unfiltered connection to the T-Rex and the world they had shared. The story he told captivated audiences, but there were details he kept to himself, moments too sacred to share with the world. The scientific community was in uproar, debating whether such a connection between a human and a T-Rex was even possible. Paleontologists, behavioral experts, and biologists studied every detail of Leo's account, trying to piece together the reality of what he had experienced. Some dismissed it as fantasy, while others saw it as an unprecedented opportunity to understand the complex behaviors of prehistoric creatures. But for Leo, the T-Rex wasn't just an ancient predator. It was a friend, a protector, and a symbol of something much larger than himself. The bond they had shared transcended logic and science, rooted instead in mutual trust and survival. Back at the research facility, Leo spent his days sketching the T-Rex from memory, each line a tribute to the creature that had saved his life. His parents watched with quiet awe as he poured his heart into the drawings, the connection he had formed evident in every detail. The sketches captured the T-Rex's strength, intelligence, and most strikingly, its compassion. One day, as Leo was working on a particularly detailed sketch of the T-Rex roaring in the clearing, his father entered the room with a soft knock. "Leo," he said gently, "there's someone here to see you." Leo looked up, his curiosity piqued. He followed his father into the facility's main hall, where a team of researchers stood waiting. They were dressed in field gear, their expressions a mix of excitement and determination. One of them stepped forward, holding a map. "We've been studying the area where you were found," the researcher said, her voice filled with urgency. "And we believe the T-Rex may still be in the vicinity. With your help, we'd like to go back and observe it. Safely, of course." Leo's heart leapt at the possibility of seeing his old friend again, but he hesitated. The jungle was a dangerous place, and he didn't want the T-Rex to be harmed or disturbed. "What happens if you find it?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. The researcher smiled gently. Our goal is to study it in its natural habitat. We won't capture it or interfere. We just want to learn. After a moment of thought, Leo nodded. Okay, he said. But if it shows any signs of distress, we leave. Promise? Promise, the researcher replied. The expedition was carefully planned, with a team of experts accompanying Leo back into the jungle. The helicopter ride to the landing zone was filled with nervous energy, the researchers poring over maps and equipment while Leo stared out the window, his thoughts on the T-Rex. Would it remember him? Was it even still alive after its battle with the darker T-Rex? As they descended into the clearing, Leo's heart raced. The jungle looked just as he remembered, wild, vibrant, and teeming with life. He stepped off the helicopter, the familiar sounds and smells washing over him like a wave. The researchers followed, their movements cautious as they began setting up their equipment. Leo led the way, retracing the path he had taken with the T-Rex. The jungle felt different now, less intimidating but still alive with the same raw energy. As they walked, the researchers whispered among themselves, their excitement growing with every step. After hours of trekking, they reached the edge of the valley where Leo had first seen the T-Rex fight off the raptors. He paused, his breath catching as memories flooded back. The valley stretched out before them, a lush expanse of greenery and life. It's out there, Leo said softly, his eyes scanning the horizon. I can feel it. The researchers set up observation points, their binoculars and cameras trained on the valley. Leo stood with them, his heart pounding as he searched for any sign of the T-Rex. The minutes stretched into hours, the tension palpable. Just as the sun began to dip below the horizon, a distant roar echoed through the valley. Leo's breath caught in his throat as he turned toward the sound. The researchers froze, their equipment forgotten as they strained to see what had made the noise. And then it appeared. The T-Rex emerged from the tree line, its massive frame bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Leo's heart soared as he recognized his old friend, its movement steady and confident despite the scars it bore from its battles. The creature paused, its golden eyes scanning the valley before locking onto the group. It's here, Leo whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. He took a step forward, ignoring the startled protests of the researchers. The T-Rex let out a low rumble, its head tilting slightly as it watched him. Leo approached cautiously, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. The T-Rex lowered its head, sniffing the air as he drew closer. When he was just a few feet away, he stopped, his eyes meeting the creature's. It's me, he said softly. Do you remember? The T-Rex huffed, a sound that sent a wave of relief through Leo. He reached out, his hand resting against its rough, scaly snout. The connection between them was instant, a bond that time and distance had not diminished. The researchers watched in stunned silence, their cameras capturing every moment. But for Leo, the world had faded away. In that moment, it was just him and the T-Rex, their friendship stronger than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the jungle in shades of orange and purple, Leo stood with the T-Rex, his heart full. He knew this moment wouldn't last forever, but he didn't need it to. The bond they had shared, the lessons they had taught each other, would stay with him for the rest of his life. When it was time to leave, Leo turned to the T-Rex one last time. Thank you, he said, his voice filled with gratitude. The T-Rex let out a low roar, its golden eyes watching as he walked away. Back at the facility, the footage and data from the expedition were hailed as groundbreaking. But for Leo, the most important thing wasn't the scientific discoveries. It was the reminder that even in the wildest, most untamed places, connections could be formed, trust could be built, and friendship could thrive. Years later, as an adult, Leo would often think back to his time in the jungle. He would tell stories of the T-Rex to his children, his eyes lighting up with the same awe and wonder he had felt as a boy. And though he never saw the T-Rex again, he knew it was out there, living its life in the world it ruled. The bond between them was unbreakable, a testament to the power of trust and understanding. And as Leo grew older, he carried the lessons of the jungle with him. a reminder that even the most unlikely friendships could leave a lasting impact on the heart.